Are you curious about the heart of Lincolnshire? Join us on a captivating journey through this enchanting county, from the bustling streets of Barton to the serene landscapes of Bourne. We delve into the essence of Lincolnshire, from the characters, the art and the hidden gems waiting to be uncovered. Our guests are the heartbeat of Lincolnshire Live's Natters. You might not know them yet, but their stories will resonate with you. From artists to historians, from farmers to poets, we celebrate the diverse voices of Lincolnshire. So whether you're a local or a curious traveller, tune in, let's unravel the tapestry of Lincolnshire together. Today's guest on the Links Lives Natters podcast is Alex Chambers from Neurotopia support group. After a discovery within her own family, Alex initiated the group to provide support for others who are neurodivergent. It's commendable how she's using her personal experience to create a supportive community. Hello Alex and welcome to the Links Lives Natters podcast. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm really excited to be talking about this project that you've started in Lincoln, which is the Neurotopia. Neurotopia? Explain that one for me, Alex. Explain, what is neurodivergence and the Neurotopia project that you've started?
Well, being neurodivergent means that somebody's brain diverges significantly from societal standards of typical. Neurodivergence is a term for everything outside the realms of neurotypical. This can be a neurotype such as autism, ADHD, or dyslexia, or it can be an acquired neurodivergence such as PTSD, like post-traumatic stress disorder, or perhaps personality disorders. That's not an exhaustive list, by the way. That's just some examples for you.
Yeah, because people won't know these new terms because obviously every so often the names change, and this is where they're sitting under that particular name at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. It's estimated that 1 in 7 people are neurodivergent, and often people have more than one neurodivergent, so that means they're multiply neurodivergent.
Also, I think a certain age, when you're a certain age, you don't know, do it? It's only when you go back to university, because I've discovered I'm dyslexic, and I think it was similar sort of situation for yourself. It's not until you go back to education you find out these things, don't you? You find out, yes, I've been diagnosed with this. So what led you to start the project? What led you to start Neurotopia Lincoln?
Well, I started a psychology degree in 2020 with the OU, and I started that because I've always had a bit of a special interest in psychology, and I wanted to get some experience, so I started working for the charity Development Plus in 2021. At that point, I was actually beginning to question whether I was neurodivergent myself. My daughter had not long since been diagnosed, and I'd been researching and relating to everything that I was discovering, because there's a lot of information available on the internet these days. And I found that my first project, the participants were all either diagnosed or actually showing very strong signs of being neurodivergent themselves. I recognised this because of my own experiences, and I discovered that the third sector is a bit of a lifeboat for struggling neurodivergence, but there wasn't any support specifically tailored for neurodivergence that was one-to-one. So fast forward 18 months, and I'd got my own diagnosis, and I'd found the perfect space, which was close to the town centre, to start my own project supporting neurodivergence, which was Neurotopia. And thankfully, Development Plus CEO Lindsay was happy to run with my idea.
Oh, that was really good of her.
Yeah, it was amazing. And Lincolnshire Community Foundation were really kindly offered to help fund it. So that meant that we were able to start Neurotopia, the neurodivergent support hub.
What sort of support do you offer at the hub? What can we expect if we wanted to walk through the door? We're shaking. We're sort of like, I know I need to come through that door. What can we expect when we get through the door?
Well, it's very relaxed. It's very informal. You'll walk through the door of Neurotopia, and most people are a little bit surprised by how calming the atmosphere is. It's really designed to be a safe space, sensory wise. It's beautifully decorated, if I may say so myself, because I decorated it. But I offer one-to-one support with neurodivergent adults and parents of neurodivergent children. You don't need a formal diagnosis at all. Mostly the people that do walk through the doors are autistic or ADHD or both, but all manner of neurodivergents are welcome. And I offer a kind of holistic coaching, problem solving, peer support and advocacy, and it's tailored to suit every person. So if you come to me needing help with attaining a diagnosis, I can help with that. Signposting, resources, emails, letters. I've also got a lending library, a neuroaffirming lending library, and workbooks such as DBT skills. But a lot of the time I'm just listening and validating other people's experiences. And I find that mutual understanding is really powerful.
Yeah, because overall Wonder Woman, I'm sat here opposite Alex now, and I'm thinking, wow, how does she manage to do all these things? Has your neurodivergent diagnosis, how's that impacted your daily life? Because we've just been listening to all the things that you do, which is absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. How does your diagnosis impact your daily life? So obviously you're running the hub, you're doing all these things. How do you think your own diagnosis impacts you with running it, or doesn't it?
Well, that's a good question. And honestly, personally, every single thing that I do is affected by my neurodivergence. As an autistic person with ADHD, I do constantly feel as though I'm at war with myself. And I have to implement certain things in order to avoid perpetual burnout. I have engineered my entire life to fit around both my disabilities and my abilities. So this involved sacrificing my former career and beginning a new one, getting new qualifications, and incorporating my special interests into what I'm doing. I have to maintain, decent working hours so that I'm not encroaching on my personal time, increasing my flexibility, and it's important to me to have that work-life balance. And I also think it's important to note that many neurodivergents have physiological health implications that often go undiagnosed, or even if they are diagnosed, they may not be understood or supported in services as they're not currently understood. That's why accommodations are so important.
Yeah, so basically, you're looking from what you're saying just then, you play to your strengths and things like that. And I think that's a good thing, because sometimes you think you're in a job and you're thinking, I'm not playing to that strength where I'm going to. Like for mine, when I set this up, I always used to think I'm no good at talking. Now you can't shut me up. And I think that's one of my strengths that I use, and I've used quite a lot to talk about it. Now, but you mentioned about self-care as well. So how do you look after your self-care?
Well, I think since my recognition of my neurodivergence, I've prioritised learning about myself personally, growth and healing within myself. As a late diagnosed adult with complex trauma, I've discovered how important it is to prioritise my own well-being.
It's hard to do, isn't it, Alex? Because, like, for me, I always worry about other people, and I tend not to worry about me. And you forget how hard it is to actually look after yourself, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the time, for people, it's easier said than done, especially when you've got children to consider as well and all that. For me, though, I use supplements and vitamins to help combat my mental health issues and my physical health issues. I did this. I do this in combination with a genetics health report that I ordered privately. That was to help me understand my physiological needs. I have supervision through Development Plus, and I understand the value of verbal processing and the importance of getting things off your mind. And I think the most important thing I do regarding my self-care is I practice dopamining. It's a term.
Dopamining. Well, that's a term I haven't heard.
So it's basically neurodivergents often have difficulties maintaining what I call their brain soup. So it's a lack of sufficient dopamine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's mentioned a lot, especially around sort of mental health and mental illness. That word is chucked around a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the important reward chemical in the brain, and this is why enjoyable activities and special interests are so important. And I make sure that I immerse myself in those regularly.
Yeah, because the other side of things, if you don't look after yourself, you're going to get sort of sensory overload and stuff like that. Does that happen? Obviously, I'd like to say it doesn't happen, but sensory overload does happen, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's unavoidable in this day and age, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you able to explain sort of like for somebody who doesn't know what sensory overload is, can you explain a little bit of what sensory overload is?
Yeah, so sensory overload is where you're very sensitive. If you're a sensitive person and you're picking up on things from your environment, and if there's too much stimulus going on, you can have a negative reaction to that, and it can end up in a meltdown, or continuous sensory overload can end in shutdowns and trauma responses and just general burnout. It's a horrible experience.
Yeah, because something somebody takes for granted, somebody who's neurodivergent will just take it and run with it. And am I thinking along the right lines that it will be a sensitive subject to them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's personal for everybody. I think it's really important to identify and avoid your triggers where possible. Self-understanding is really important. So working out your sensory profile, like by analysing what you enjoy sensory wise, and also what triggers you, and this can help from keeping you going into overload.
So basically, sorry to sort of like get a big chart if you can. You know, people say this, don't they? They say get these pieces of paper, write your pros and cons on each sort of piece of paper, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that.
You could do that.
Often, like lists and notes and things can get a bit lost, especially when it comes to ADHD. But perhaps keeping a journal, or I tend to utilise my phone quite a lot, because that's something that's ever present in our lives these days.
That's very true. You say that.
Yeah, you can make voice notes on your phone as well. If you've got like WhatsApp, you can leave yourself voice notes, and you can react and reflect on events that you've been through. It might sound silly, but if again and again, if you're going places, and you can make a voice note and say, actually, that was a really horrible experience. There was too many people, the lights. You can speak into the microphone, and you can reflect on that and realise what your difficulties are.
Yeah, because it's something you take for granted. You just think, yep, my phone's in my pocket, everything else, I'm just going to run up a mega bill and everything else. But it is a tool. It is a tool, isn't it? Because Absolutely. Like you say, you've got the microphones on there, you've got some kind of apps. You can just make notes and stuff on your phone, can't you? You can use it. I've never thought about that, Alex, actually, using my phone in that way. I know I have an app where I make lists when I'm doing things and stuff, and I just make this list after list. And then sometimes I look at that list, Alex, and think, wow, I'm a bit lost in that list. But like you say, with the microphone and stuff, just speaking into it is a really good tool. I think that's a really good tip you've mentioned there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we need to make use of what resources we have, and often, there's not many of us that don't have phones these days, so you utilise them as you can, really.
This Links Lives Natters podcast is brought to you in association with A Guilty Secret, the brilliant new psychological thriller from best-selling Lincolnshire author Philippa East. creator of Little White Lies, Safe and Sound, and I'll Never Tell. It was only meant to be a game. At exclusive boarding school St Michael's, Carrie and her friends are used to getting away with anything, until one night their recklessness goes dangerously too far. They swore to keep what happened a secret. They swore to protect one another. But 16 years on, someone is about to break that promise, because you can't keep a guilty secret forever. Gripping and twisty, A Guilty Secret releases on the 18th of January 2024 and is available to pre-order via Amazon, Waterstones, and your favourite independent bookshops now. Don't miss out. Discover Philippa East's brilliant psychological thrillers today.
Faulty boiler leaving you brainless. Radiator making you feel cold and lifeless. Leaky tap making you feel like a... Then call J&S Plumbing and Heating. Your local, your friendly, reliable plumbing and heating engineer. We offer comprehensive solutions for all your plumbing, gas and heating issues. We are here to bring you and your plumbing back to life. So call J&S Plumbing and Heating when you're feeling a little grave. Hello?
What advice would you give to somebody who's newly identifying as neurodivergent, or they, like you mentioned, they think they're on the cusp of getting a diagnosis? What would you suggest? Obviously, they can come and see you.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is welcome to the club. It does depend on their circumstances, really. We're all so different. Self-discovery and insight is incredibly valuable. It's important to know your strengths and know your difficulties, and work to keep yourself as harmonious as possible. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but that's just the way it is often. But also, if you haven't already, find your tribe, because we often find the greatest understanding and support comes from our own neurokin, and there's plenty of us about, especially on social media these days.
Yeah, because obviously I've been following Alex on social media, and you were quite chuffed the other day. She doesn't. I'm going to ask this, but one of the London Pride has mentioned Lincoln, hasn't it? And you were really quite chuffed about having a mention on sort of one of the London Prides mentioning your pride, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought that was really lovely. That was really nice of them to include Lincoln in their advert. It felt like we were putting Lincoln on the map a bit.
And I know she was absolutely stoked about it, because if you can see her face now, her face is just lit up when we've just mentioned about that. And we did sort of like mention about Neurotopia Pride, which we'll mention at the end. One of the things I wanted to get people to understand a bit more is about how do we create a more inclusive and understanding environment. Because people, you either understand or you don't understand, or you've got a little bit of knowledge. What if you had loads of money and the world was all happy and everything else, what environment would you say would work? If you could create the ideal environment.
Yeah. Well, it's important to listen to neurodivergent voices, because we are all so different. So what we need is an adaptable environment. It's very important for sensory needs and for buildings, organisations, employers. They could all benefit from input from neurodivergent people on this. So things such as fluorescent lighting, bright white walls, noises that generally neurotypicals might be able to filter out, but often we're not able to do that. And it's not just neurodivergents that could benefit, it's everybody that can benefit from adaptable lighting and quiet areas.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse, I think, for me, is like fluorescent lighting. Lighting is a bit of a bugbear for me, especially when it starts flickering and then it sort of catches your eye, doesn't it? Because it's flickering and it almost becomes distracted, doesn't it? So that's going off in your mind as well. Also, you've mentioned about what other resources are available, because I know you mentioned at your hub you've got loads of different books and your lending library and stuff. And so, what other resources would you say are out there?
There's actually quite a lot out there. I think the issue is a lot of people don't necessarily know where to look to access it.
That's the thing, isn't it? If you're not sure what's going on with you, if you're trying to get this diagnosis, and because I know it is quite hard to get a diagnosis of ADHD, autism. Trying to get a diagnosis is hard. So, trying to find those resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in Lincoln locally, we've got LPFT's new virtual autism hub.
Oh, explain this
yeah.
one, Alex.
Yeah, so they're a signposting service, but they also help with practical things, I believe. But they're just a general go-to for people that are struggling and don't know where to go for advice. You can always go to the virtual autism hub. We've also got PACT, which is run by Gordon to help parents and children. That's a great organisation. We have ADHD Links for adults and parents, and they have group meetings. We've got the Network for younger people. And we've got Abbey Access for skills and training. There's also a group called Canada who hold meetings. I think another big issue is whether the resources are progressive and neuroaffirming in nature as well. I think that is important to acknowledge that we are looking to move progressively away from the disorder and into something more neuroaffirming.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. I knew we'd got a few resources available. I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised how much is actually available in Lincoln. And now we've obviously got Alex and her project as well, which really excited me. That's why I wanted her to come on the podcast to talk about what she's doing, because one of the things that's happening very soon is something very special, isn't it, Alex, which is the Neurotopia Pride.
Absolutely, yes.
And I know she's really excited about this because her face has just lit up again.
So, yeah, I think it's really important to give neurodivergent people a voice. In giving people a platform, we can enable people to be heard, and if we can hear them, then we can understand. There's a surge in diagnosis or self-identification, and that's because of technology and social media. People are talking, sharing, educating, being heard. And I read that it takes an average of 17 years to get from evidence-based research to practice.
Wow.
And that's far too slow behind the neurodiversity movement. So we're seeing a growing number of autistic and ADHD psychological researchers exploring the field for themselves, holding research. And the more people that listen to us, the more inclusive we can make society. And anything that gives neurodivergents the opportunity to share their experiences is absolutely vital to heal our community and defeat stigma and stereotyping. And that's one of the reasons why I'm holding a Neurodiversity Pride event.
What can we look forward, because I know we've been discussing it and it's quite an exciting time. So what can we expect? What can we look forward to? Some highlights.
So it's a family-friendly event. It's on Saturday, 22nd of June. It's 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. It's poetry, singing, music, and we've also got the guest speaker, Peter Warmby, who is a best-selling autistic author of Untypical. So that's really exciting to have him here. So it's looking to be an amazing event, and yeah, I'm really excited for it.
And where can we find that event? Where will that event being held?
So that event is going to be at Bridge Central, which is off Portland Street.
And is there parking? Will there be parking available?
There is parking, but
Very limited.
It's limited. So if you can walk or get alternative
it's
transport.
quite a central location, isn't it? And it is quite close to a car park. And I can't actually think of the name of the car park, but there is quite a few car parks around it.
There is, yeah.
as well. If not, there's a well-known supermarket across the road that's got a big car park, so
Yeah.
we can you can just
Absolutely.
park in that car park and stuff like that. And where can we find more information, Alex?
It's on Eventbrite. It's not free. It is ticketed.
It is ticketed.
But yeah, it is on Eventbrite if you want to have a look. Neurodiversity Pride 2024. It's live through a neurodivergent lens.
And this is going to be such an exciting event, because I know Alex has put so much work into this, and to raise the cause and get people to actually listen. That's the thing. You don't have to be neurodivergent to attend this event. Am I thinking anybody can come?
Yeah, absolutely anybody. Yeah, completely inclusive. And it'll be a real educational as well as entertaining. It'll be educational for people as well.
Okay, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I don't think we're finished with this subject. I think Alex will be coming back, because it's a subject that we could talk about for ages, because there's so many different strands to it, and it's something I think I'd like to revisit again. But Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. All the details of the events and the things Alex mentioned, I will hashtag them and put them all over our social media as well. Alex, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Alex Chambers and gained valuable insight. My thanks to Alex for her time, and also thank you to my technical support team. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate and leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform. Why not stay connected with us on Facebook and YouTube? Have a topical guest suggestion. We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a message. Remember, your support keeps us going. Share this podcast with your friends and family and colleagues. Let's continue spreading positivity, knowledge and inspiration. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning and keep living your best life.